Hi, I'm Dr. Rob McKenna. I'm the chair of the Industrial Organizational Psychology Master's and PhD programs at Seattle Pacific University. And one common thing that many programs like ours receive are frequently asked questions, which we thought if we could ask these questions often, then we should create a video for you so that you can get some of these answers, and if we can move on to other questions that you have. So I'm going to roll through some of these that we have received quite often. The first one is this: I'm applying to the program. What do you look for in a candidate? And there's some basics in terms of your written application that we look for. Certainly your GRE scores. The quantitative component of our program is pretty rigorous, especially at the PhD level. And so that matters. So that the overall GRE scores are very important. And we want to make sure that you are successful. So we set you up for success. And so that's why that has been an indicator for us. Make sure you spend some good time on your personal statement to know, to make it clear. Tell us something about your story. Let us see you in your writing, and also tell us something about why you want to be studying industrial organizational psychology here at Seattle Pacific. That answer to the question of why is just as important as your resume. So make sure that you are clear in stating that. Research experience is helpful. It isn't absolutely necessary, but if you have some, certainly talk about that so that we see that you've got some of that. Because research is a component of our program, both at the master's and even more so at the PhD level. Practical experience, again, having a long history of work experience is not necessary, but it can be helpful for us to understand the portfolio of experience that you bring. So all those things are important. And then what we also look for is once we see your application on paper, then if you are invited to the interview day, we get a chance to meet each other in person and to really see what's important to you, and for you to see what's important to us as we make these selections. So that's the way the process looks. Do I have to be a psychology major to apply or to be accepted? And the answer to that is no, you do not have to be. There are certain core requirements that you can see in our application process, but we get students from business, from psychology, from theology, from sociology, from a lot of different disciplines. And so certainly psychology in your background and a little bit of business can be very, very helpful to you in terms of your success, but it's not absolutely necessary. What does a typical student look like in the program? Are they older or younger, experienced or not experienced? What is, different backgrounds, ethnicity, and so on? I would say that there is a common characteristic of students in our program. One of them would be that they are different in terms of their perspectives and the stories that they bring to the program, which would be common in a lot of places. But I think one of the common factors in terms of how they show up is our students come with a sense of themselves, or at least a beginning sense of themselves, wherever they are developmentally, but also a willingness to edit, a willingness to change and to adapt, because the program itself requires that. If you're someone who already has all the answers, I don't know why you'd be looking at a graduate program anyway, but that's a really important piece here. And so that's what I would say that our students look like. Also, in terms of older or younger, sometimes there's this assumption that, especially in our PhD program, that it's more seasoned people with a longer career experience who happen to be a little bit older who would do their PhDs, and that's not necessarily true. We have students across the age spectrum who are studying here. I mean, not into high school, of course, but we have students who are post their college education and then up into later seasons of life who do very well here. One of the questions that asked is, will I meet my spouse in the program? And I'm kidding, that's not on my list, but I wanted to say it because I would say that one of the common factors is that this program is challenging. It will challenge you intellectually, it'll challenge you socially, it'll challenge you interpersonally and personally. And so when you get challenged, you spend that time with people, you will develop some very close bonds with others. And so we have had people, actually today I can say this, that we've had a couple of people who have actually met their spouse in the program. So a lot of people in other people's weddings and at the birth of their children now. So it's you do generate some very close relationships. Are there scholarships or graduate assistantships to assist with tuition? Most all of our PhD students get some scholarship money offered in their offer letters. And it's a percentage. It's not a huge percentage, but it is something to help with those doctoral students and their progress through the program. But they do need to figure out financing for the rest of we want to make sure that we have a realistic preview, that we want people to have a clear understanding of the costs of the program. So there is some money in those offer letters. Master's students can get graduate assistantships. And those you apply for those after you get into the program, and it's not just for financial aid. These are assistantships where you actually would be working. You would have the available time to work on a faculty member's research team. So if you would be interested in applying for that, you would apply after you come into the program. How do I know whether to apply for the PhD or the master's degree? Both of these populations of students in our program, and they do study together at certain points, are wonderful people. If there were a separation, I would say this: if you're going to apply to the PhD program, you have got to love research. You've got to love research. You've got to love deep analytical thinking, digging into questions that are challenging to answer. You have to love to think about these things, and also, want to be a practitioner. But you also are going to need to want to study with one of the faculty members here, because you're going to work on their research agenda for the next several years of your life. And so make no mistake about that. Get to know who we are. This is why it's important. I had a question on here that is not a real question, but it is this: what is Dr. Yost really like? And if you don't know who Dr. Yost is, he's one of our faculty members, and I'm not going to tell you what he's really like. You can find out if you end up in the program. But what I would say is that you do need to understand what we're about as a PhD student, and be driven to understand that. And the master's students are people that want that same foundation in research, but they really want to get out and practice sooner, and they see themselves as increasingly applied. And most of our students end up working in organizational settings anyway, and not academic settings, but it is important to know that there is that difference there. So that love of research is certainly a really important piece of the program. Can I do the program part-time, and can I work during the program? If you're a master's student, yes, the courses are in the evening, and so as long as you can be there and you've got to be present in the program, then many of our master's students do have full-time jobs. They would say it's challenging, but it is doable. With the PhD students, the answer to that is mostly no. That this is we call it your primary vocational identity, is as a doctoral student, and I'm not just here to get you a job, but we are here to change your name. We are here to give you, it's a long kind of journey through the program. And so know that there are some doctoral students who take on part-time roles, but it is a residential program, and so you need to be fully present here. This is your primary, not only vocational identity, but the place where most of your hours will be spent. So that's a conversation that if you ever do, with permission from your advisor, take on a role somewhere. But we are here to make sure that you finish your PhD. And now some of you are thinking, well, of course you are. That's what I want. But when those job opportunities start to come, and they do, we're going to tell you, stay home. This is the most important thing going on right now. And then the other piece is that's a question that is so commonly asked is SPU is a Christian community. What does that mean? What does it mean to study here? If I studied at a state university and I don't know what that means and what that looks like. And I would say yes, our faculty come from a Christian faith perspective, and we believe in the God in the Bible who the story is so engaging. It's the story of a God who sacrificed himself, and at the same time, this is a God who has a very strong sense of who he is, and asked us to model that same thing in our own character. And so for us, that means that it's walking this line between a discovery and the importance of who we are, that we are beloved children of God, but also this willingness to sacrifice for others around us. And sometimes those sacrifices might be in little moments in the program. And what that means is that really this is a place where we are attempting to model grace, both offering grace to ourselves, but offering grace to others even when it's very difficult to do so. And that's what character development looks like in the program. Now, more practically, what does that look like? It means in some cases you may have experience. If you haven't experienced a professor who prays in the classroom, we care deeply about our students. So that sometimes occurs, and there certainly are places in the program where we would discuss our Christian theology. But I would say that we have students who are not from a Christian faith perspective, and unless you're someone who is pushing back hard against that, this can be a wonderful place of grace especially given that it's such a rigorous learning environment. And so, but understand that it is the perspective that underlies what we work on here. And also, there will be courses where you will get into some Christ-centered theology in the program, as well as we understand our own faith journeys and perspective. It is from that foundation. So I hope this video was helpful, and as you consider the program, and we hope to see your application.